Regular session of our Pascal School District Board of Directors meeting. We preceded this meeting with a study session that started at 4:30. That was our last session of our State of the School reviews. We heard from all of our middle schools tonight. So we heard from McLaughlin and Stevens, Ochoa, and Ray Reynolds Middle School. I encourage you to check out that video that is online if you are interested in hearing the great things our middle schools are doing. But with it being 6:30, I will call this board meeting to order. Tonight, we, as always, will be starting our meeting with the flag salute, and we have Frost Elementary here to guide us in that flag salute. But first, Principal Leonard is going to introduce us to some of her amazing students.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. My name is Kelly Leonard. I'm proud principal at Robert Frost Elementary School, joined also by our assistant principal, Ramon Ayala, here in the audience. And we're honored to be here tonight to showcase 5 of our exemplary students that really represent the spirit of Robert Frost Elementary. They're hard workers. They have a growth mindset. They do an awesome job following the big 3 at school. They're safe, respectful, and responsible. And also their spirit of kindness, empathy, and inclusivity. So those are just some of the characteristics of these 5 kiddos that are here tonight that Mr. Ayala and I and our teachers are incredibly proud of. They also represent the diversity of the classes we offer at Frost, from English to Spectrum to dual language. And so we're just really excited to have such an awesome group of kiddos here to help us with the pledge. So thank you. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Samantha Arcilazo Mendoza. I am in Mr. Silva's class, 2nd Bilingual Spectrum. And tonight I brought my mom and my dad and my little brother.
Hello, my name is Sebastian Garcilaso Mendoza, and today I am in Miss Merlo's 4th grade Spectrum bilingual class, and today I brought with me my mom and my dad.
Hello, my name is Isaac Reyes. I'm in Miss Sanchez's 4th grade class, and tonight I brought my mom and my grandma.
My name is Mike Flores. I'm here with my son's class, and I'm in my 4th grade, and I'm here with my mom and dad.
Good evening. My name is Natalia Paulina Yanez, and I am in Miss Sanchez's 4th grade class, and I'm here with my mom and my dad.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the Robert Frost administrators and to parents and students who are here tonight, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and lead us in the flag salute. It is, like Superintendent Whitney was saying to these students as right before the meeting started, it's probably the highlight of every one of our board meetings. So thank you. Each of your students is getting a gift from our student board representatives. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Ms. Richardson, may we have a roll call, please?
Amanda Brown.
Present.
Steve Simmons.
Present.
John Kennedy.
Present.
Steve Norford.
Present.
Amy Phillips.
Present.
Jason Byrd.
Present.
Deb Farina.
Present.
Owen Bergstrom.
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. The next item on our agenda is the approval of our meeting minutes from our regular board meeting from April 22nd, 2025. I would entertain a motion.
Board President Brown, I move that we approve the regular board meeting minutes from April 22, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve our regular board meeting minutes from April 22nd, 2025. Is there any discussion? We will approve the minutes by a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the agenda review. Superintendent Whitney.
Board President Brown, there are no additions or changes to the agenda this evening, and we're not requesting an executive session.
Okay. Next, we get to have two very special recognitions, and Mrs. Tensmeyer will tell us and lead us in both of those.
Okay. Good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. As we gather tonight, I'd like to take a moment to recognize National Teacher Appreciation Week, which took place May 5th through 9th. This week is dedicated to honoring the educators who make a lasting difference in the lives of our students through their commitment, creativity, and care. In Pasco School District, we are proud to have 1,310 certificated employees, including teachers, counselors, nurses, librarians, and specialized support staff. These dedicated professionals play a critical role in meeting the diverse needs of our students and supporting their success in and beyond the classroom. Tonight, we're honored to be joined by Maria Lee, if she's here, President of the Pasco Association of Educators, along with several union representatives who exemplify the dedication of our certificated staff. So as I call your name, please come up to the corner right over here. So Andrea Conger is 4th and 5th grade combination teacher at Livingston Elementary, representing elementary educators. Megan Wilkinson is a two-way dual language ELA and history teacher at McLaughlin Middle School, representing our middle school educators. And Jacob Brazo, social studies teacher at Chiawana High School, representing high school educators. So as a token of our appreciation, each of you will receive a framed piece of student artwork created by Pasco students who were honored in the ESD 123 Art Show. So please join me in expressing our deepest gratitude to all of our certificated staff for their unwavering dedication to Pasco students and their commitment to education.
I'd like to echo Ms. Tensmeyer's thoughts, but I'll wait for you to take your photo before I go into my accolades. So, Mrs. Tensmeyer, if it's all right, I'd just like to thank all of the teachers before you go on to your next special recognition. Thank you to all the teachers in Pasco School District for the service that you give to our district. Our students would not be who they are without you, and you are the face that they see every day. I tell my students all the time, I spend more time with you than you do with your own parents when you're awake. And so I got a note from a student this year. It said, "You're like my mom away from home." And so and that's what all of you are to our students. You're the special person that lights up their lives, that makes that difference, that, and not only doing that, but it's like a million things every day, all at once. And to show up and be a teacher every single day is just, it's so important and such hard work. So thank you. Anyone else on the board like to say anything before we move on to the next recognition?
Being in Pasco School District basically my entire life, I truly believe that Pasco teachers are the best in the business, and I want to thank every Pasco teacher in this room for my continued education and every student that's ever been through the system's continued education.
Yeah, I'd just echo the sentiments of the board president and Mason. Coming from a family of public school educators, my mom taught kindergarten for 30 years. I know firsthand the hard work each and every day that educators do, public school educators do, and our students have the best teachers in the Tri-Cities here in Pasco School District, and I want to thank the dedication and the hard work and love that our educators have for their discipline, for their craft, and for our students.
Like Mason, I also grew up my entire life in the Pasco School District. I've been to multiple schools in Pasco, and no matter what school I went to, I always felt like my teachers made me feel special, seen, heard, and valued. And it's something that I can talk to other peers with, that it's kind of a universal thing that Pasco teachers, I know it's a lot to be a teacher, and you guys do a lot of effort outside the classroom that we don't see as students, but it really means a lot to us, because when you show up there, you make us feel like we belong. So I really do appreciate all the work that our teachers in Pasco do.
I just want to say the same thing, echo the sentiment to the board. You guys, without the teachers, I mean, there's really nothing for the district to do. You guys really have a lot to do. You guys are constantly with our children and our youth, and have a big impact on their lives, and you guys are one of the biggest parts of the district. So I appreciate all the efforts you guys put forth to all teachers in the district.
I remember learning in one of my college classes that the number one influence in a child's life are their parents, and the number two influence is a teacher or a coach. And so what you do is monumentally important. You truly change the world with what you do. So thank you for all that you do. You are where the rubber meets the road on this district, and we are all very well aware of that. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, and we wish you the best for this upcoming year.
Thank you so much. One last applause. All right, Mrs. Tensmeyer, thank you for indulging me.
Of course. Okay, well, now we have another one. So tonight we're also honored to recognize Pasco School District's ambassadors who recently completed the district's 2024-25 ambassador program. So in October 2024, we launched our third year of the Pasco School District Ambassador Program. The program intends to foster pride and knowledge among program participants, comprising of community members, parents, and staff. Over the course of 6 months from November to April, our ambassadors engage in a series of carefully planned sessions. They're an hour and a half, and they take place once a month, and they're designed to provide our ambassadors with essential knowledge and insights about the district. Through these sessions, our ambassadors gained a comprehensive understanding of the inner workings of our district, enabling them to become true advocates for educational excellence. And there's a few of them that wanted to share some messages tonight, so I'm going to have them come up.
So good evening, Pasco School Board members and community. I'm Vicente Roman. I'm a part of the ambassador program here. I really was happy for the transparency that the program provided and the open dialogue. It was really awesome to see, and it should bring trust among the community members, I believe. So thank you for your dedication, and I hope this program continues to be innovative and grows into something bigger and better. But thank you.
I just go by JP. When the older one's a grandfather and a 20-year veteran, and then it's just amazing what Anna has done with how she directed us through the rest of the last few months in this area. I learned a lot. I'm way out of focus from the youth, but I do have basically a foster girl in the 11th grade, so that tied me into relearning and understanding. But I do appreciate everything you guys are doing, especially the teachers. I'm from a small school. I'm just amazed at the number of students they have individually, so my hat's off to you and everything you guys do, and I appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Myra Avila. I'm glad I'm not the only one that wrote it down. I was like, man, I'm like over-prepared for this. All right. I am the parent of 2 children in Pasco School District. I wanted to be part of the ambassador program to dive a little deeper into how the district works when it comes to like money, education, and safety, of course. I attend a few of the seminars the district puts on, and they're wonderful. This one, however, was quite a bit different and quite the step up. You know, being able to go into the different schools really enhanced the whole program. I am taking quite a bit away from this, as not all the school districts have something like this, which was kind of surprising to me. So it's amazing. Like, I'm going to reiterate, the transparency is great. My personal experience with the Pasco School District has been amazing. My boys both attend McClintock, and the staff has been incredibly supportive, and I have seen so much positive growth in both of my sons, one of which is autistic. And as a parent, I was really concerned, you know, going into kindergarten this year, like, is he going to be bullied? Is there going to be enough support? Well, my oldest son, he's in 3rd grade, he reported there's no bullies in the school, so that was good. So check that one off. And then just seeing how his teacher interacts with him and communicates with me on Parent Square, I mean, he does have a lot of support, and I will say he's probably spoiled a little bit, so I'm grateful for that. I know that a lot of parents don't experience some of that with a lot of the public schools, so I am very grateful, and I'm truly blessed to be part of this district. And this ambassador program is actually one of those ways that we can bridge that gap in communication, where sometimes parents can get frustrated with their school district. And by participating, you're having that open dialogue, which is great. Thank you for, well, we hear that it takes a village to raise a child, and it really does. And thank you for contributing to creating amazing members of the community. I appreciate everything that everybody here does, and will continue to do to improve our children's education and experience. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alex Capo Prieto. As a student, or I guess former student, then substitute, then teacher of the Pasco School District, I have access to more information and experiences than the average person. That being said, I'm a part of the greater machine that runs this district, but I did not know of all the other gears, cogs, levers, switches, and tubes that synergistically allow our district to run like a well-oiled machine. I am impressed by the commitment each section took and the common goal that we all shared. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that the next year's ambassadors have just as good experience as we all have done today. And I guess the last school year. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing. And now it's with immense pride and pleasure that I present certificates and swag to the exceptional individuals who completed our ambassador program, which means they attended 2 or more sessions. I'm actually going to give you your certificates at the very end, so I'll have you all come up and get a picture, and then we'll give you your certificates in the back when you're done. So as I call your name, if you could please come stand up in the front, and I'll probably have you come stand up in the corner, and then we'll probably have, if you all don't mind, maybe come down and get a picture, group picture. Okay, Alex Gable, Alfred Bird, Alyssa Persons, Anna Magdaleno, Candice Munguia, Galen Faise, Joanna Perez, JP Hyde, Lupe Guillen, Myra Tapia, Melinda Carmona, Melissa Zerb, Stephanie Ramirez, Susie Armstrong, and Vicente Roman. Did I miss anyone? So if we can get a group picture, if you all want to come down, we can get it in front of the right here. So as they're getting their picture, you may wonder what's next for our ambassadors. Their journey does not end here. Instead, it marks the beginning of a new chapter filled with opportunities to contribute and shape the future of our district. We recognize the invaluable insights and perspectives our ambassadors bring to the table, and that is why we are thrilled to extend an invitation to our ambassadors to participate in upcoming initiatives where their input will be sought after and treasured. So thank you again to all of our ambassadors who joined us this evening. We look forward to working with you in the future.
Yes, thank you to all of our ambassadors who took part in a series of meetings throughout the school year. It's not just one meeting, it's multiple meetings learning about different facets of the district. And I really like that a lot of you talked about transparency. I think as someone who learned about this program as a board member, I love that it is able to educate our community about the great things that school districts are doing, because, and that Pasco specifically is doing, because a lot of times when you hear things in the community, unfortunately, it's like you hear about the negative stuff that's going on, but, and that's just what people talk about. But when you get to be an ambassador, you're literally like an ambassador of, this is what Pasco is doing for our students, this is what Pasco is doing for our community. These are how all the systems work and all the cogs that work together to really create this, like the last comment said, like a well-oiled machine. And I'm just really grateful to be a part of that and take no, I don't take any, like, that's not mine, that's just something that this district does so well, and I just get to be a part of it. And so thank you so much for being those ambassadors and taking that message out to the community for the district. Would anyone else like to comment on this year's class of our graduating class of ambassadors?
Thank you so much for coming, for learning about our district. We love the ambassador program, and sounds like you got to know Anna Tensmeyer really well, and she is fabulous. Go tell all your friends to do it. I think the more we can educate in the community, the better, and it helps us to be better partners and therefore better educators of our children. So tell all you know, and let's make this program even bigger. Thank you.
Thank you for all the time you invested in this program. Thank you.
I'll just quickly echo those sentiments too. You know, I appreciate the comments that were given too when you guys were up there. There's a lot that goes on in the community, and a lot of times people just don't understand or know or have any idea how the district functions and what it all entails and how much there is behind the scenes going on. So it's very commendable that you guys took the time to attend and to be a part of that program and to learn. It's always good to know. Thank you.
From a student perspective, it feels nice to know that there's staff members, parents, and community members who are interested in what goes on into our education. It just makes it feel like you guys really value what we are taught, and it also, I think, is actually pretty amazing that we have a program that gives insight for our community to be able to understand what goes on behind closed doors. But I really do hope that this program continues to flourish, and congratulations on becoming PSD ambassadors.
I just commend you for going through the program. I just think our society always needs more engagement in the community, and what you've accomplished is a part of that. And so I just commend you.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, we will have the opportunity to hear from our community in our public comments. The Pasco School Board of Directors values hearing from its students, teachers, parents, staff, and community members. And so this is an opportunity for you to do that. If you would like to offer public comment to the board, if you're here in the boardroom, we invite invite you to come up to the podium. You will have a 2-minute time limit, and so that you can keep track of that, Mrs. Richardson has a light that she will set once you begin your speaking. And when you begin, if you could please tell us your name and your affiliation with the district. And then after a minute, 30 seconds, it will turn yellow, and then it will turn red and beep when it comes to 2 minutes. At that time, when it turns yellow, please start to wrap up your comments so you can be done by 2 minutes. If you are online, then we would also love to hear from you. You will just be muted at 2 minutes with your comment. With that being said, is there anyone here in the boardroom who would like to offer public comment tonight?
Good evening. My name is Trevor Dunstan. I am a Pasco resident, a Pasco parent, a teacher for the district, and the vice president of the Pasco Association of Educators. Good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Whitney, and distinguished members of the board. I'm here today because I'm saddened for a recent loss the district has taken to the arts department. I understand that when the fire marshal comes and tells you your kilns are not up to code in your buildings, you gotta follow what the fire marshal says. However, I'm curious what the plan is to try to get those kilns back up to code in those buildings. It's going to be an effort to try to get those up and ready, but there are currently many buildings affected with teachers and many students who are now curious what their final projects are going to be for something that they've been working possibly all year, all semester, quarter. A lot of hard time and energy that they put into those projects are now sitting on a shelf, not getting finished. I understand the fire marshal tells you something of that level, you got to follow what that is, but hopefully there is a plan in place. We know what the code is, and we're working to get them reestablished. So I hope we can get that addressed. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity, board members, Superintendent Michelle Whitney, and everybody else in this room. My name is Saul Martinez. 12, 13-year Pasco resident, lifelong teacher. I've had the honor to work in 4 different districts, and this is the only one I've called home, and that's including Walla Walla, which is actually my home. Nothing but praises for Pasco School District. I've loved every experience, every moment. The students and teachers and everybody else has been fantastic. Again, nothing but praises until this very moment. And I'd like to echo the last comment because nothing gets under my skin. I'm pretty easygoing, and imagine I became livid finding out that students that I had been working on, like you said, months long worth of work, beautiful sculptures. Right now we're working on personal symbolism, so imagine kids sculpting their mother, their father, their sister, their best friend, their lost dog, a past grandma that's passed away. Students have been sculpting these beautiful pieces, and now they have to sit on a shelf for the remainder of the year without being fired. If you don't know clay, it's essentially silica that, think sedimentary rock, that eventually you put in a kiln and it turns into metamorphic rock. And it's not all too dangerous. It's a kiln. A kiln is essentially like a brick oven pizza. I don't understand fire code. That's beyond me, but what I want to say is that, I still treasure this coffee mug I made when I was in high school. My wife drinks out of it, right? It's this keepsake, and that's what we're losing. An artist here, an artist there. Even if we lose one artist over this tragedy, that's one engineer, one artist that we lose in this community, and that's way too many. I'd like you to I really hope this issue gets resolved, and thank you for this opportunity.
Hello. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Crystal Luttrell, and I am the ceramics teacher at Chihuahua High School. I'm here tonight to advocate for the needs of my students You see, 2 weeks ago, someone from the district office came in to my room with the Pasco Fire Marshal, and they took a look at my kiln room, and I actually had a load going, and they told me to stop. As Saul explained, the kiln is what fires the projects, and student projects aren't complete without this. What you have in front of you is an example of some of the work in my class that has been paused and possibly won't even get to be completed because of this issue. I'd like to remind the board that teaching at Tijuana means I teach at the largest school in the state of Washington, at least for another 3.5 weeks, right? So I run classes of roughly 30 students each, and each student on average makes 4 projects in my class, and each project has to go into the kiln once to be fired, and then it comes out, and then they glaze it, and then they fire it again. So that's 120 projects loaded in and out of the kilns 8 times a trimester. And also, I brought with me dozens of letters from my students explaining their tremendous frustration and sadness with this situation. They asked me to do a filibuster tonight, but I know time is limited, so I'll read just one. He said, "My name is Aiden Manzo. I'm a high school student at Tijuana. I'm in advanced pottery. This is my second time taking this class because I enjoy it so much. Pottery is such a great creative outlet for me. I can create these pieces that I can make with my own hands over a period of days, months. I've poured so much of my hard work into these pieces that won't be finished because they close the kilns and I will be graduating. It's hard to keep motivated with the truth over our heads. Please hold off on the shutdown of the kilns until summer so we can keep our art." The reality is that kiln space...
I apologize, but your time is up. We would love to read your student letters if you would email them to the board.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Luttrell, if I could request that I also be included, since I'm working with the city, to get clarity around what they want from us to bring our kilns to spec. They're reviewed annually, and every year annually till this year they've passed inspection. So we're looking from clarity from the city, like what happened from last year to this year.
Yeah.
So I'm engaging with the city. Those letters would be really helpful to me. So
I
if you
really
could provide
appreciate
those to
that.
me.
And I do just want to say that the reality of like getting things taken care of at this point with such little time left in the school year, probably, I don't know if that can happen if we have community partners that can work with us. I think it would mean a lot to my students if they got some kind of recognition of the work that they've done, or even a formal apology. And then also my concern going forward, I'll be at Sageview High School next year. The kilns are already up in the room, and I have seen how much money the taxpayers are putting into our brand new program. And so I just want to be sure that it's ready to go on day one. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Appreciate it. My students appreciate it.
Good evening, Board, President Brown, Superintendent Winnie. My name is Brandon Haft. I'm a 7th grade science teacher at Reynolds Middle School. I'm here tonight to you guys, and this is a hard follow-up following all these teachers. My proposal is about a land use proposal. We have about 13 acres near Reynolds Middle School to have my students with their science work actually get outside the classroom. So the last few years, I've been able to work with the Washington Native Plant Society and their year program, which is the Youth Ecology Environmental Restoration Program. Gets the students out of the classroom, get them to understand where they live, what the environment is that they live in, and help the state restore their environment. Not only does it get the kids engaged in learning in our science curriculum, but it also gets them understanding that the different roles and jobs and opportunities are outside of the classroom within the different fields of science. I've been working with the Taptail Greenway, the Franklin Conservation District. All are interested in trying to help and preserve some of that acreage for us, which our school could use not only as a learning environment, but also as a community greenway. So Pasco does talk about our outrageous goals for students. Part of that is stewardship, leadership within the communities This process opens up that for the students to be outside and leading ways in there. We can get the CTE program in there by helping create signs to help with informing the community about what is out there. We have the opportunity for our students to be seed gatherers, so a seed community bank for the conservation district, not only at the elementary or middle level, but at the high school level. So we can span all grade levels and work a vertical alignment in helping team with this. So talking with the teacher in first grade at Columbia Elementary next to us, she did say she was interested in helping and coming out and working the field. Talking with the principal at Delta, she said they have no environmental program. This is an opportunity for them to be at that higher level for an environmental program at that school, working with us at Reynolds. The process just opens up. The year representative told me there's another teacher at Ochoa who's interested in trying to figure out how to bring this program into her school. The opportunity to get our kids out in the program, out of the class, learning is a key aspect in here. And again, as the Tri-Cities grows, Pasco grows alone, we're now getting to be competing against MAC when we're there as the biggest school. And again, it just gives more opportunities for us to learn and have more space and be those stewards like we ask our students to be in Pasco. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, my name is Kim Lehrman. I'm a teacher and a parent here in Pasco School District. I teach art at Tijuana High School. I just want to say how impressed I am by your innovation as a teacher in Pasco School District, a science teacher, connecting all the different cross-curricular organizations from CTE to science, a lot of opportunity. So what you just heard is a teacher that's very, very innovative. That's a lot like our art department. That's a lot like not just Tijuana's art department, but Pasco's art department, from all the middle schools, all of the art teachers I've had a chance to be able to interact with. Very innovative, great problem solvers. And I think that's where I'm stuck. Like, I understand that sometimes there's outside entities that have jurisdiction over us that we do not have control of. In this case, it's the new fire marshal for the city of Pasco. But what can we do in the meantime? What can we do for all those projects where students have poured their hearts into that is just sitting there that may never fulfill that end result, that gratification that you have completed a project, instead sitting in no man's land? So how can we be innovative? How can we be able to work together? How can we be able to problem solve? Yes, just 3.5 weeks left, but during these 3.5 weeks, there can be some opportunities out there. As Ms. Luttrell had mentioned, using community resources from Kilns that we can be able to transport back and forth. That is where I'm stuck at. The letter that we received on May 5th offered no problem solving. We can get air-dried clay for students. We can be able to get acrylics for them to be able to paint, things like that. There was no solutions. There was no reach out to me, how we can be able to partner together, how we can be able to work through this together. We understand that teachers care a lot about their students, as well as the school district, but however, that message was not there. So I've been up here before and have thanked the board for the help with the art programs and the support. And this is one of the times that I'm saying, please, board, help us again. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else present here in the boardroom who would like to offer public comments? Mr. Garrett, do we have anyone online? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. Tonight, that consent agenda consists of personnel, warrants, overnight student travel for Tijuana High School STEM MESA program to Bellevue, Washington, out-of-state overnight student travel for Tijuana High speech and debate students to Des Moines, Iowa for national competition, out-of-state overnight student travel for Pasco High School FCC-LA students to National FCC-LA Leadership Competition in Orlando, Florida. Out-of-state student travel for Ochoa Middle School 8th grade music students to Ethel, Idaho. Out-of-state overnight student travel for Pasco High School Gear Up students to visit multiple college campuses in Montana. Overnight student travel for Sageview High School cheer team to leadership camp in Randall, Washington. Out-of-state student travel for Pasco High School orchestra students to perform at Silverwood Theme Park in Naphal, Idaho. Overnight student travel for Pasco High School. Yearbook students to Spokane, Washington. Overnight student travel for Ochoa Middle School STEM Mesa program to Bellevue, Washington. Approval of the 2025-2026 revised school calendar to include secondary early release on Thursday. Resolution number 1056, final acceptance of Richard L. Linhart Transportation Building Pasco Regional Transportation Cooperative. Resolution number 1057, final acceptance of Richard L. Linhart Transportation Building Pasco Regional Transportation Cooperative Commissioning Report. Sageview High School Project Construction Change Order number 019, overnight student travel from McLaughlin Middle School FCCLA students to State FCCLA State Officer Training in Wenatchee, Washington, and Policy 4218, Language Access Approval. I would entertain a motion.
Board President Brown, I want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Richardson, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Aye.
Dr. Marver?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. The next items on our agenda are action items and extended study discussion, of which we have none tonight. And that takes us to our reports. Our first report this evening is our Student Action Council report, and our student board representatives are at the ready to offer us the report.
Good evening, Board President Brown. Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Whitney. My name is Jenna Carrera. I'm one of the 3 student board representatives. I represent Chihuahua. We had a recent meeting last Wednesday during early release of the Superintendent Student Action Council, where we went over student financial wellness. We had a special guest, Mrs. Livering-Harn and Mrs. Carlson from the Women of Wisdom, wow, Tri-Cities. They went through a financial workshop with our group, walked us through different options, how to be sustainable, how to be wise with budgeting, finances, how to live in other people's shoes when it comes to financial situations. This was if I remember correctly, this was requested at one point by students previously to be a presentation that they did want before the end of the year. So I'll pass it over to Mason.
So for the key takeaways of what we learned at the meeting itself, one of the biggest things that we did was we had kind of like built a plan they gave us a scenario of like a person's financial situation, right? Whether it was like they were a doctor or they were barely making ends meet or whatever it had to be, and you had to build a budget out for that person. And it kind of helped students look at budgeting and also look at how important having financial freedom is, and how important, even no matter what financial situation you're in, how important looking at your financials as a like overall outlook is. It was also, they also gave us sheets if we wanted to take them home and do our own budgeting at home. And then they also went over I believe it was a 8-step plan to what they called blasting off to financial freedom, which included things like filling out a budget and planning on making a savings account and a spending account, saving money, investing, things like that. And it felt like it really helped students understand the overall outlook of our financials.
And then kind of the next steps of where we should go from here. We're going to request feedback from the students about the presentation, kind of ask them what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, all to kind of align to our current financial literacy courses. I know there's a lot of student feedback, and my personal opinion is our current financial literacy class is kind of outdated. I was balancing a checkbook in my financial literacy class, which isn't isn't completely useless, but is kind of less useful compared to some of the other stuff that we could be learning about in our financial literacy courses. And then from there, we were wanting to take the feedback and then feed that to the appropriate people to kind of move forward with that and see what direction they wanted to move in for our financial literacy classes. And then our next meeting, May 21st, end of the year celebration, famously have breakfast. Have breakfast in our meeting for lunch. And then if there's any questions from the board, we'd be happy to answer.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I think this is fascinating. Did you guys request that you have this financial literacy course, or was this something that the district suggested?
So during the Superintendent Student Action Council, we did a period where we asked students for what they would like to learn about, what would they like to be presented to them. One of the top things we did get back was financial literacy. They wanted a presentation on financial wellness, just so they could see more in depth, because obviously our council spans across all grade levels, so they might have not taken financial literacy yet, or they took it, don't remember it, and they're graduating this year. But it was just a booster that they wanted on more financial knowledge. And then also seeing how we could implement that back into our district to make our financial literacy course as meaningful as it should be.
Well, I agree. I think this is fantastic. It's actually something my children have complained about, is that the financial literacy class is a great opportunity for kids to learn about financial literacy, but what they learned was way more from us than from that class, because it was, so I would love to look into that curriculum and make sure that it is exactly what our kids need to be learning. And it sounds like you guys took the first step, and hopefully this will lead to really positive changes in that curriculum so that our kids can graduate, because there are a few things that are as important as financial literacy as you go out into the world and start to make a way for yourself. That's really crucial. So thank you for starting this. Hopefully this will lead to great things.
Just really quick, I had a coworker one time, and this isn't necessarily completely true, but he always used to say, the lack of money, or that he used to say that money is not always a motivator, but the lack of money sure is. And it's very interesting to me. So I have, kids at your guys' age too, and it's a struggle sometimes to understand money and the implications that you can have if you don't manage it well. So, kudos to you guys for taking the time to have this presented before your guys' council, and then also to be able to take those back into your class and be able to make that class more worthwhile for those that will take it. I hope you guys remember the things you learned, because even adults struggle with it too. So.
If you have a list of things that they suggested in replace of the checkbook or whatever, it would be good to hang on to that and make sure it doesn't get lost, and make sure to pass it on to whoever picks up the ball.
What led you to the Women of Wisdom to give this presentation?
I will pass that over to Superintendent Whitney.
So the two individuals that came are really active partners with our district, and they actually received a grant and offered to come and do the presentation as part of that grant. So it was just another example of just deep community partnerships in Pasco. So that's how we were connected with them.
That's amazing. I've definitely heard of the group before, but I hadn't heard of them coming to schools to offer instruction or any kind of presentation, so it's great to know that they do that.
I would just say that Women of Wisdom, like Board President Brown says, does a phenomenal amount of community service work in the Tri-Cities. Not just financial literacy, but business development, entrepreneurship in our African American community, in our Hispanic community, in EV technology and recharging stations in the Tri-Cities, clean energy. And so the people with that organization are really committed to making a difference in our community, and it's really wonderful that we were able to partner with them on a very important financial literacy.
So financial literacy is a required class by the state of Washington. Yes. So does it, this is not for a question for you, but does the state of Washington have a suggested curriculum for that course? Or is that up to individual districts to adopt a curriculum or develop one?
Yeah, it is a part of the CTE program. It is, there's standards that we have to follow in order for it to qualify as a financial literacy course. That's up to standards of the state, I believe.
So Pasco School District has required financial literacy for decades in our district. It recently has become a requirement from the state level. I don't know that it's a CTE requirement in all districts. It is in our district, or it's through the CTE pathways in our district. I don't know that that's the case in every district. I think each individual district decides based on their local communities' needs and desires about how they'll meet that financial literacy requirement.
I remember, in, what did we call it? Consumer science? When I was in high school? Mrs. Schaefer? Did you have Mrs. Schaefer?
Maybe.
Yeah. I remember that she brought in like a bunch of, like when you get a credit card offer, and then the APR that's on a credit card offer, and then figuring out the interest rate that you would have on a purchase. Do you guys do that in your classes?
I did not do that.
I think that she literally like brought in like her own credit card statements and said,
I would start practicing.
I had Mrs. Leidy from Chihuahua, who's a phenomenal financial lit teacher. She did walk us through APR, interest rates, the pros and cons of using credit, how to use it effectively, how to build it. She made us do a simulation weekly of purchasing items, using credit, paying it back. You get paid so much amount, you can purchase XYZ, you have to pay back XYZ at XYZ interest. She was a phenomenal teacher.
Great, that's good to hear. Well, I think the purpose of you, besides giving you the experience of offering reports in public, is that you bring issues and subjects to our attention that we wouldn't have had known about otherwise. So I have some questions about financial literacy that I think I'd like to hear about in the future. So thank you for giving this report tonight. Any further questions or comments from the board? This is your last presentation as our student board representatives, isn't it? No?
I believe we present the final council meeting we had the 21st. I believe
Okay.
the next board meeting.
This is your
after that
second to
our
last,
final.
your penultimate. Okay. Well, we look forward to we don't look forward to it we look forward with sadness to your last board presentation. Thank you very much. Our next report is the overview of the Pasco Digital Learning Academy Assistant Superintendent Goebel, and an assistant that you may have.
Good evening. Where am I? This one here. Okay, there we go. All right, super impressed with our student board members. That was very well done. Without notes, I am impressed. Good evening, Board President Brown, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight. Tonight, I wanted to provide you with an overview of our Digital Learning Academy programs, our history, the program models, our mission, our staff, and our enrollment, and an exciting highlight to come at the end of the presentation with our new opportunities for expansion. So this graphic illustrates all of our programs that we offer in our Digital Learning Academy, starting from the bottom up. We have our iPal program that serves our students in grades K through 12 and is 100% asynchronous ALE alternative learning environment program supported by certificated teachers. Our next program is Pixel, which serves students in grades 3 through 8 and follows an 80-20 model, 80% synchronous instruction and 20% asynchronous. 80% of our students' day is spent being taught content face-to-face on Zoom, and 20% of their day is spent asynchronously working independently. Virtual New Horizons is our sister program for the high school, so students want to continue that model, they can go to Virtual New Horizons, which follows the same 80-20 model. And our final program is P3, which is a K-8 program that is 100% parent-led, offering a highly flexible instructional approach for families. For those students, we offer workshops weekly at our site as well. So a little bit of a background. Our district has offered digital learning opportunities for about 12 years now. iPal was launched in January of 2013 as our first virtual learning program, initially serving students in grades 6 through 12, and it later expanded to a K-12 model in August of 2015. In fall of 2021, in response to COVID-19, we introduced additional virtual learning options for Pixel, P3, and Virtual New Horizons. And in spring of 2022, all these virtual learning programs came together under the umbrella of Pasco Digital Learning Academy. And by fall of 2022, we proudly opened our new facility over on Court Street. So at the same time that we brought all of our programs under the PDLA umbrella, each program itself had its own unique vision and mission statements. And as our teams came together, we collaborated to merge these individual messages into a single cohesive vision and mission that represents us all. And as a unique alternative learning environment, one word that stands out to us especially meaningful is that all. Because our use of the word is intentional and inclusive, it reflects our commitment to serving all students, especially those with unique needs from every corner of our district. Our PDLA staff is listed here. So in our iPal program, we have grades K through 12. We have one teacher who teaches grade K5 for both iPal and P3, one teacher who teaches grades 6 through 8 for both iPal and P3. We have 5.5 high school teachers for iPal, 2 facilitators, and one of our facilitators oversees our P3 Pasco Parent Partnership. In Pixel, we have moved our program to grades 3 through 8, and we have 2 teachers who teach grades 3 through 5. One is bilingual and one is in English. And then we have 4.5 middle school teachers, 2 paraprofessionals, 2 resource room teachers who serve our students' special ed needs, and 3 specialists that teach music, PE, and robotics. So with our enrollment growth, I just wanted to share a little bit about how unique it can be. While our in-person schools are usually at their enrollment numbers that they will be at by about the October 1 count, our PDLA programs continue to grow all year long. After our COVID enrollment, our number patterns still followed this trend. And students come to us for the uniqueness of our program and what we can offer. Sometimes it's a better fit for kids to be online and learning from home. And some come for social anxiety issues, and some are referred to by the school to come see what we offer. The upward trend for iPal happens every year, as illustrated by the graphic. The data here is inclusive of our K-12 enrollment. Each year we start out on the lower end, and then we continue to grow all year. At the high school level, we tend to explode in the spring as high school students are working to earn their credits. And the 2023-2024 data, you'll see an anomaly that I just want to mention real quick. In January of 2024, we moved all of our students who were taking credit retrieval courses back to the high school where they're being served there. So, but as you can see, our numbers built right back up this year, even without those credit retrieval kids. And the most exciting news, so both of our programs have qualified to be multi-district licenses. And what that means is that we, in both iPal K-8 and Pixel 3.8, can accept students from all across Washington State. So the application process that we went through is an OSPI application that you have the month of January to submit. The process requires applicants to provide evidence for 52 criteria pieces ranging from course content to instructional design, to student engagement, academic policies, program management, board policies, among several others. My team worked to provide evidence for this application in the form of things like screenshots of our program, videos, explanatory documents, syllabi for each of our courses, and curriculum access so they could see what it is that we're using. By the time we were done, each application was about 150 pages. So in the spring of K-8, in the spring of 2024, iPal K-8 achieved its status as a multi-district licensed school. And then most recently in February 2025, Pixel also earned its multi-district license. We're particularly excited about Pixel achieving this status as it's the only online program like it in the state right now. And we will think it's going to have a unique draw for families. Our goal, I'm working with Anna and the awesome public affairs team right now to get some advertising out there, and we want to highlight our specific areas that we offer that no other district does. Some of those being bilingual online classes, music online, the 80/20 model. We also use Canvas in Pixel, which is used at higher ed. And the materials we send home for kids to do the work hands-on, as well as our SPED support. And we are currently working on some flyers to send out. This is iPals that we sent out last year to all the districts in the state. And we look forward to sharing with you what the multi-district license brings to our district in the future.
Do you know how many students you've gained from different districts so far?
I actually do, thank you. For iPal, we've only had a small intake from our other districts. So we have 5 from Kennewick, 2 from Richland, 1 from Grandview, and 2 from West Richland.
How many is that altogether?
Amy, you're making me add. 10.
I would just say that I teach at 2 institutions of higher learning locally here in the Tri-Cities. One institution asynchronous entirely, and we use Canvas. And so I'm glad to hear that you're using that platform. But also, it's an important skill to successfully navigate an entirely asynchronous platform because it requires a lot of responsibility. For example, meeting deadlines.
Yep.
When you don't have an instructor there to remind you every week that you have something coming up, you have to you have to do it yourself. I'm kind of curious if you notice any other kind of transferable skills that you've seen students develop to successfully navigate an asynchronous program.
The one that always pops to mind is that they could run circles around adults when it comes to technology. So that is one transferable piece where our kids will be on Zoom or working with their teachers, and sometimes they're navigating faster and showing us tricks that they've learned about the technology pieces that they use. It's highly transferable.
Can we ask questions? Absolutely. Okay, thank you. So you said, so for that district license, the inter-district license, the multi-district, is there other districts in Washington that also have the same?
There are. It's not as easy to get, but there are other districts who have applied. Most of them have similar programs like iPal, so that's why we're particularly excited about Pixel, because no one else has that kind.
So are we the only district in the Tri-City area that has this multi-district license? Is Kennewick or Richland?
As of right now, yes, I think we are the only one.
So is it?
I think they're applying.
Is it competitive, kind of, if someone on the west side of the state was looking for a program, is there a reason why they would want to choose Pasco over another?
Sure, and I think particularly for the Pixel program, because we don't have any other schools in the district that offer an online bilingual program or that 80/20 model where it's 80% with their teacher all day long. A lot of it is 100% asynchronous work, so that I think is going to be a big draw. Plus, we have, right now my music teacher and students are working on putting together testimonials about what it means to be a music teacher online, or music student and teacher. And I read one yesterday, and it was beautifully written by this very shy little girl who wouldn't have joined band if she hadn't had the opportunity to do it in a smaller setting where she didn't have to be all eyes on. And so so those opportunities I think are what we're going to highlight that are so different for our kids. Yeah.
How does the FTE work for each of these different tiers of at-home learning?
So for our iPal and P3, they are alternative learning educational models. So we get 80% of their funding for FTE. For Pixel, we get 100%. So if a student were to come to us from Walla Walla, we would get 100% of their funding once they choice transferred in.
And the first two you said were the Pixel, and does that include the P3 as well for the 80%?
P3 and iPal are alternative learning. Yeah, so we get the 80% from them.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. We're just throwing questions at you, and you have answers to everything.
Okay.
You are well prepared. Are there any other questions or comments?
I'm just curious how AI is influencing this particular learning environment.
That is a really good question, and one I know is part of the work that we're doing as a district. So our, the AI influence would be sometimes students finding ways to use it, but we are doing some education around how to teach them to use it appropriately for school work instead of inappropriately for school work.
Well, thank you so much for this very informational report. It was, I always learn something new whenever we hear from our asynchronous or partly asynchronous our programs. So there's always something that I didn't realize before that is just, there's just so many tiers and so many levels to it, and you're doing such a great job meeting all the needs of our students in the district. So thank you so much for your report, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Our next report is the third on our agenda, the budget presentation, Navigating Pasco School District's Fiscal Reality. And just information for our attendees online and here in the boardroom, we will have the opportunity for public comment after this board report if you'd like to offer any public comment to the board about any of our reports this evening. With that, Superintendent Whitney.
Good evening, Board President Brown and members of the board. It is my pleasure to be in front of you tonight to present, maybe not present about the budget, but it's always a pleasure to present to the board. I am going to be joined by a couple of different district staff members tonight. Executive Director Joey Castilleja is newest member to our team. He'll be presenting tonight from the chair of the Executive Director of Fiscal Services, and then also Assistant Superintendent Sarah Thornton will be presenting to you really from the chair that she serves for us around employee services specific to staffing. My job is to set the purpose for tonight's presentation, which is really around our continued focus on navigating Pasco School District's fiscal reality, which is really nestled into a nationwide and certainly statewide fiscal reality around public education. So you don't have to look very far on news headlines to see that districts all over the country are struggling fiscally in this current economic environment. We were just on a statewide webinar this afternoon with Superintendent Chris Reichdahl, who said Washington State, not just in public education, but Washington State is experiencing a financial crisis. So when a state is in crisis, us as kind of a microcosm of the state as the 16th largest district, certainly is also going to be experiencing financial tensions. So tonight, our job is, or our purpose of the presentation is to provide context for our district's financial position and outline a strategic approach to addressing our current budget deficit, which includes two things: focusing on staffing through reducing staffing ratios through attrition, and then also planning for responsible reductions to our fund balance. And we'll talk about that really in great detail for you as a board, because ultimately we're going to be asking you for direction around our approach. So we will not be asking you for that direction tonight. However, we will be asking for that direction at our next meeting in May. So tonight, at the end of May, I think it's the 27th. So tonight is really about us providing that information, giving you an opportunity to really understand our options, and then getting any questions answered tonight or any requests for additional information. The first set of direction we're going to be asking you for at the end of May is about how we close out the 24-25 school year. After that, we'll be coming back to you to begin to think about the 25-26 budget year, where we'll have to continue to talk about how will we approach fund balance, how will we approach staffing reductions, and we will talk a little bit tonight about the potential of some federal funding uncertainty. So this is a layered dialogue, and tonight, again, I just want to be really clear, we're not going to ask you for any decision tonight. This is our first opportunity to be together, really understand the information and the context, and then over the course of the next few meetings, we'll be asking some layered direction. First, how do we get through 24-25, and then second, after that, how would we like to approach the 25-26 budget year? So with that, I will turn it over. Unless you have questions for me about the purpose, I will turn it over to Mr. Castilleja. Okay.
Well, that was kind of fun because I haven't heard anyone address me by my title yet. So thank you for approving me tonight. I guess I'm official for the 25-26 school year. So I've joined the team around November. Your superintendent and executive team had the foresight to understand the budget crisis that the state is in, and so we assembled a team to get ahead of it, so sort of sort the buttons, if you will. So that's the work we've been doing. Just so happens, I sort of fell in love with Pasco, and the climate culture and the booth building is wonderful, so I applied, so I'm happy that I get to stay. So a little bit about the budget that's going on. So what you have here, I'm not going to go line by line, but you can see it, is basically our revenues are coming in lower than expected and our expenditures are coming in higher than expected. That's pretty much the long and short of it. An example of revenues right at the top, you'll see our enrollment came in a little lower than expected. That's kind of a new thing for Pasco. We've been on a 40-year growth spurt, and so now we're starting to see a little bit of a tick down, and that equates to about $800,000 of revenue that we won't see that we had expected to have and budgeted for. And if you go down the line, you see some positives there as well. There's some unexpected revenues that are up and some are down, but overall it kind of comes out to the negative. On the expenditure side, this is just a sample, and these are kind of the big ones. Utilities at the top, we had budgeted $3.8 million, and our actual is going to come in closer to about $4.8 million, so we're about $1 million short or long on our expenditures for utilities. And you can kind of see insurance, security, fuel, things like that are all coming in more expensive than expected, and that's probably not a surprise. When all is said and done, the long and short of it is the projections at this point, it's looking at like we will be short about $6.9 million on our budget when we're all done with the 24-25 school year. So what that means is we're going to have some decisions as a board executive team as to how we close our school year out. One of the things that's a key piece to our financial plan is how we operate with a fund balance. And I want to kind of take a second to explain how the fund balance works. So every year, the board gives us direction on how much of a fund balance they would like us to maintain, kind of as our, I don't know, I've heard people call them the rainy day funds, things like that. Call it what you want. It's just the idea that we have some money in the bank so that we have capacity for funds to go in and out of our checking accounts. Our fund balance is about $24.2 million in full, and I like to explain it this way. We have two pieces to it. We have what we call our unrestricted fund balance, which our board direction is 5% of our total revenues is how we figure that out. That equates to about $16.5 million. And then the green is what we call our designated assignments. It's also a fund balance that we carry year to year. We like to think of that more as like a savings account from year to year. And those dollars all have a name, a special purpose, like they might be for a curriculum or things of that nature. It's all within the purview of the board to decide how they spend those dollars. But year to year, we build a budget around the idea that we're going to start and end with this kind of fund balance. However, when we just in the last couple of slides, I showed you that we're going to end in the red about 6.5 or 6.8 million. What that's going to mean is it's going to start to dip into this fund balance, and that's when we have to have conversations. So at the end of the day, what's going to be asked at the end of May is for permission to lower the fund balance. And we don't take that request lightly. I think as a board, you would want to know what's the plan. If we're going to do this, how are we going to work our way out of it? And that's probably if I were only to show you one slide tonight, this would be the one. So you understand how we're going to handle that. The first thing I would say is we're in a deficit like 191 other school districts are. I would say that our biggest priority right now is to handle it with grace, to have the least amount of disruption to the education process, to maintain our support of our educators, our community. And I really feel that this is a really good way to do this. So I am literally going to read the bullets so you can kind of get the idea. We currently maintain a 5% unrestricted fund balance, and we carry 7.8 million of designated fund balance from year to year. That was from that pie graph chart that I just showed you. This strategy illustrates reducing the unrestricted fund balance to 2.5% for 3 budget cycles, while reducing staffing expenses by 4 to 5 million each year through attrition. So every year when you're a district our size, we have a number of people who retire, or they just naturally take jobs in other districts or what have you. What we want to do is capitalize on those natural movements and right-size ourselves through that approach. The third bullet there, each year we will assess our progress and external economic factors to determine when we are ready to balance a budget with a 5% unrestricted fund balance. The example below is an illustration of the strategy. So, looking at 24-25, our current year, we're a $331 million budget. That's the actual number. What we are proposing is that we reduce our unrestricted fund balance to 8.2 million instead of the 16.5, that's where we get the 2.5%. We would recommend leaving the designated fund balance as is at 7.8, because that's kind of like our savings account, and we want to maintain that. And at the same time, we will start to right size and reshape our staff through natural attrition. And we are looking at in the range of $4 to $5 million of changes there. Then you get to 25, 26, just through looking at just IPD and different factors. We are looking at a budget next year probably in the range of $342 million. Again, we would reduce the restricted fund balance to 2.5%, maintain the designated fund balance, and then continue the reductions of staff over time. And then I even went another step there. It could be that that does it, but we have to kind of evaluate that from year to year as we open and close our fiscal years. But it could be into 26, 27 that we do the same thing. But eventually, at some point, we will get up here to say, hey, we got through it. We maintained our staff, our programs for kids. And it's time for us to go back. It's safe to go back to a 5% fund balance. So 27, 28, the bottom line there kind of illustrates what that would look like. By then, we're probably looking at, approaching $360 million operating budget, 17.8 million as your fund balance, and still maintaining that 7.8 million in your designated fund balance. And at that point, you maintain a level of staffing. So, did that make sense to everybody? So it's kind of that shift. I really do have a lot of faith in this plan. I've been asked several times, why don't you just consider the layoffs or the RIFs and things like that? I don't believe that I have the data and support in our numbers to actually recommend that at this point. We're ahead of it enough that we can head this off at the corner and do this, which is really a great thing. It just takes into consideration the people in our organization, more especially, that always trickles into the classroom, and that's what's really driving this.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why aren't we, if we're reducing staff costs every year by $4 to $5 million, why isn't our unrestricted fund balance increasing by that much every year?
So the unrestricted fund balance is, it's kind of a funny thing. It isn't necessarily a savings account that we just maintain. What we do is when we build the budget and close a budget, we put that in off the top. We're like, okay, 5% of the fund balance or of the total budget is like roped off, fenced off. We don't touch it. So it's based off of the total revenue that we're expecting. So that's why the 2.5%. So it's basically just cutting that 5% in half and giving us some wiggle room so that we can operate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but
Yep.
if it seems odd that we would continue to spend 97.5% of our budget in year 25, 24, 25, 25, 26, 27, 28, and then all of a sudden now we're going to only spend 95% of our.
Right. And this is an illustration. We could come back next year and say, job done, and go back to 5%. So I'm showing.
So is it almost like, okay, this is worst case scenario, we want to pay that, we want to be able to go back to 5% sooner rather than later?
That would be the goal.
But in the meantime, we're requesting 2.5% so that we have that leeway in there just in case we need it.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. If we can pull it off in 26, 27, then we will be the first to tell you that we're back in line, so.
Is
yep.
this going to hurt I know we have really good credit rating because of the fund balances that we have. And so we're able to acquire bonds and levies I guess levies don't have they're not a loan.
Correct.
Bonds at a lower interest rate. Is this going to affect our rating?
Yes, the fund balance does have an effect on our rating, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So that's another reason to get back to the 5% as soon as we're able to. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Will that affect current bonds? Are current bonds done?
Everything that's already been settled out and has a rate, the rate is the rate at that point. But as we do new bond banking, it would carry forward, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And again, it's one of those things, we kind of want the tortoise and the hare kind of thing. We want to take a calculated, level-headed, logical approach to this. Doing it in one swoop is going to, have all kinds of unintended consequences in scheduling and programming and schools and whatnot. But this should work out real nice, especially as we're opening new high schools. That also helps, as we're distributing staff amongst those buildings and whatnot. So, but any other questions? Do you want to add?
I guess I'm really struggling a little bit to understand exactly the scenario that you have out here. So what is the total of the board mandated? So it's 16.5 million that you start out with. And then how does that change over each year? How does that drop or increase over each year?
So I just want to clarify, what he has outlined here in this multi-year is an illustration. We would be coming to you each year to ask for permission to reduce the unrestricted fund balance to the 2.5%. We're not saying that this is what the plan is for each of those out years. Does that make sense? So right now, the only direction we're asking for is permission to reduce the 5% to 2.5% for 24-25. That's the direction we'll be asking from you at the end of May. Every time we go to do a budget, we would be looking and analyzing the opening operating cost, what the operating costs are for the district, and whether or not we would be again asking permission to reduce the 5% unrestricted fund balance from 5% to something different. Does that make, I just wanted to clarify. So, and the reason I'm saying that now is we're not going to be able to answer a bunch of questions about what's going to happen in 25, 26. We don't know that yet. So we would not ask you to make this level of multi-year decision or give us multi-year direction like this because we just don't have enough information to do that.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it saying if you take 5% unrestricted balance, you decrease it by 2.5% the first year, you've only got 2.5% left and you can only do that twice.
Sort of. So every year, the undesignated fund balance is calculated at the very beginning of the budgeting process. It is not like the restricted where we save those up in those little savings accounts at the end of the budget cycle. So at the very beginning of next year, we could designate whatever we really want to as unrestricted fund balance because we do that in advance of allocating that year's revenue out into budgets. It's not like when we spend the assignments, they're gone. Those two pieces of the fund balance are very different.
Let me explain it another way.
Let's have Sarah go on to staffing, and then we can circle back around to this if there's more questions about it. So Sarah.
Yep. There you go. Yep.
So as Dr. Castille has said, the key to the strategy of a multi-year approach is going to be to reduce our staffing costs. And this primarily means reducing the number of positions in the district. So I'm going to speak a little bit first to why the focus is on staffing. Over the last several years as a district, we have worked very hard to reduce our non-employee related costs, or our staffing related costs, or non-staffing related costs rather. For example, in the 23-24 school year, we were able to reduce our non-staffing expenditures by 18% over the prior year. However, the non-staffing costs are only a fraction of our overall budget. And a lot of the non-staffing costs are driven by rates that are set outside of our control, for example, utilities and fuel and insurance. So the savings that we can realize in our non-staffing costs is somewhat limited. So that brings us back to the focus on staffing, which is about 86% of our total budget cost. We're a people business. We educate 18,000 students in a given day. We need to employ people to do that and deliver those services and staff those programs. So although it is our largest expenditure, it is also core to our mission. So in addressing that part of our budget, we do look at our staffing closely every year to monitor for enrollment. But as we've been doing over the last several years, and I think Dr. Castilleja alluded to this, we have also had our eye on staffing the 25-26 school year, where we are opening 2 new schools and beginning new programs that we have to layer in. And we didn't really have the clarity around the enrollment picture or the program needs of those buildings to really focus in on that as precisely as we can now that we know what those staffing needs are and those program needs are. So now that that is clear, we're in a much better position to be able to address our staffing needs and address the staffing related costs. As we approach what reductions in staffing look like, employers, public employers, school districts basically have 2 choices. It's either an immediate reduction through a layoff, or what we call a reduction in force, or a RIF, or the other approach is to accomplish those cost reductions in a more phased approach using that voluntary attrition. And that is what we are recommending that the district engage in. That an example of that phased approach is what you saw on that previous slide. And the information on this slide really outlines what our considerations were as we looked at what our recommendation to the board should be. We have been, and you know this, and everyone in this room knows this, we have been growing by incredible amounts for decades, more than 2 decades. And all of our internal systems and processes are calibrated to that. For the district to shift to adjusting to declining enrollment or flat enrollment is really a big culture shift and mindset shift for us. And so we need to be able to make that shift and create space in our systems for staff to be able to make those changes. We also considered our economic footprint as the largest employer in Franklin County. If we were to engage in a large-scale immediate layoff, that would have repercussions to the community.
addressing staffing through voluntary attrition is less disruptive overall to the economic health of the community and the families that we serve. We also have our eye on federal and state funding, which may increase or decrease in any given year. And finally, it's our historical data that tells us that we expect we will be able to accomplish what we need to in cost reductions related to attrition. I'm going to show you that here on this slide. This only goes back to 2018-19, and we can certainly provide more historical data if you'd like to see it. But you can see that in any given year, we have had, at a minimum, 34 certificated reductions and 42 classified reductions. Certainly more so during COVID. A lot of those came, those voluntary reductions came after the temporary COVID dollars expired. We had many temporary positions, and those folks left those positions. So our regular attrition rates, you'd really see those more in 22, 23, 23, 24, 18, 19. And historically, we do have enough capacity in those numbers that we feel confident in being able to adjust our staffing. That means that we can plan for what is potentially a phased or a multi-year process. But what we do and are able to accomplish in 1 year really informs the position that we're going to be in the next year. And so, and this is something that Dr. Castilleja alluded to as well, we may be in a position to come back to you next year to say that it was enough. We may also be in a position next year to come back to you and say the funding landscape changed or something else happened and that wasn't enough and we need to do more. Our best case scenario is that in this, what we're doing this spring for next year would be adequate, and that we would have adequate attrition the following year then to be able to essentially right-size our staffing for the budget. If that isn't enough this year, that just increases the likelihood that we would be planning for layoffs at the end of 25-26. So the more we can do now up front, that just puts us in a better position going into next year. We are also going to be exploring staffing-related costs that are not necessarily tied to positions, like the actual hiring of a person. So for example, what I mean, there's an example here, administrators this year gave up a contractual benefit of $1,400 per person related to professional development. By giving up that benefit, that was a cost savings to the district. There may be other places in our contracts and our work with employee groups that we can collaborate with our labor partners to target that in lieu of reducing positions. That's a conversation we're going to need to have with them in the coming year. We have not had it yet. That's all subject to mandatory bargaining for those groups who are represented. But it's something that we at least need to explore. So in addition to staff reductions, we are looking at that as well. And then finally, I want to just show you where we are as of today. This chart shows you that as of today, we have accomplished a 5.6% reduction in our administrative staff confirmed for next year. Our classified staff will be reducing by at least 2.2%. And so far with our certificated staff, we're at about 1.1%. There will be more to come before the end of the year. We typically, for our classified, get quite a few resignations and retirements in June, July, and August. And for our certificated, we do typically get 10 to 15 more before the end of this school year. I want to acknowledge that behind those numbers are people. These changes through attrition, while it sounds simple as far as, this is how we're going to do it, it's not simple to the people who are impacted by it. The staff who are resigning or retiring are not necessarily doing so from the places where we need to actually staff programs. And so what that means is a lot of very difficult conversations with a lot of staff that have been occurring over the last several weeks and will continue to occur into May. And I think it's important that we recognize that for our staff, this is not ideal. It is not at all ideal, and it is difficult to be assigned to a class or program that is not your first choice, that you didn't, look at and say, hey, that's what I want to do. But unfortunately, it is the option we have. It is necessary for us to do that right now because of the budget deficit. I do want to recognize the staff that we have spoken to over the last several weeks who have just been incredibly gracious and kind and understanding in the face of really difficult news that is not the news that they wanted to hear. They have repeatedly said, I understand, I'm going to do what kids need. I'm going to do the best that I can for our kids. And it just has made me incredibly proud to work alongside PAE and PSE and with Dr. Alice Amaya and Jen Johnson. It is, I think the way that people are approaching this, I think really underscores how special this organization is in that we can rally around this problem to solve. So we will be, you can see here, supporting staff to the extent we can, trying to ensure that any reassignments align with their certification, providing training, and continuing to work with the union and connect staff to people who can answer their questions. We will also continue to work with our union partners to extend the retirement incentives, retirement and resignation incentives next year so that we can continue to engage in that long-term planning. I believe you're up next. Are there any questions I can answer for you about that before?
So could you tell us what percentage attrition, how much do we need to lower over time? These percentages, you got 5.6, 1.1, 2.2.
Yeah, so.
To come into alignment where we should be.
Yeah, I think we're looking at overall between 4 and 5% each year. So if we are overall, if we are on track for that or exceed that this year, that may mean we need to reduce less next year.
So 4 to 5% per year. For 3 years?
Over 3 years. Potentially. And like Dr. Castilleja said, there are a lot of factors that are going to influence that. So if there is an influx in enrollment or revenue, that changes the picture. If the state changes their funding formula, that changes the picture. If the federal government reduces grants, that changes the picture. So it's a bit of a moving target, Steve, but that's where we have it focused right now.
How does the levy play into this? We're coming up on renewing our levy in February. How is that going to play into this?
It will factor into it because that is a source of revenue for the district, and that will be a discussion with the board around what level of levy and what amount of levy the board wants to direct the district to ask for.
Remind me again when that decision needs to be made?
By November, we're going to ask for board direction by November 2025.
Okay.
First meeting in November.
So we do have kind of a second half to this presentation, but I wanted to take a moment right now to just acknowledge that all of the information that we presented to this point is really around preparing you to give us the direction we need on May 27th. And that direction is really pretty narrow around how do you want us to handle the fund balance. And you really do have two choices. Our recommendation is to reduce the board mandated fund balance requirement from 5% to the 2.5%. Your other choice is to reduce those designated savings accounts or assignments. We have chosen to recommend the board mandated fund balance requirement because we can immediately adjust that back to the 5% the very next year if our budget can sustain that. Whereas once you spend the savings accounts, we have to save those dollars up again. And in this environment, that would take longer than any of us are comfortable with. So that is why we're landing on the recommendation of using the board mandated fund balance requirement of 5%, reducing that to 2.5%. So district staff will be requesting direction on which one of those two strategies you want us to use to close out the 24-25 school year. So again, the direction on the 27th is really just narrowly to one of those two options, with number 2 being the staff's recommendation. So are there any questions I can answer about any of that before we go into talking about what 25-26 would look like? We want to give you that information so that you can start thinking about that as well.
I have a question about earlier slide. Can you explain what the summer 2024 cost that benefited 2025 means? Because there was a
Can you tell me what slide you're on?
4.
Thanks.
Page 4, or slide 4.
This one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. To ask the question again, I apologize.
Yeah, so the last row, summer 2024 cost that benefited 2025, what was that?
It's often, well, so as administrators, we often at the end of one school year buy things out of that year's budget that's going to support the next school year. Those expenditures were actually that some administrators expected to be able to spend out of the 24, that last year's budget actually had to be paid for out of the 25 budget.
Is that like MSOC, basically?
Yes.
Okay. So that's materials, operating costs,
Correct.
supplies, yeah.
In most cases, yes.
Thank you.
Superintendent Whitney, while we're on this slide, and looking at the variance, the numbers are so variant. And I'm just wondering, as we, as a board, approve this budget, and it feels like perhaps we could have had, should we have practiced some kind of better financial oversight as a board to have foreseen that this is going to happen? It feels, because I feel like that Pasco School District has been in one of the better financial situations. And so as a board, what could we have done to have prevented this?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. I think when any district is experiencing any kind of unexpected tension, there's always an opportunity to self-reflect from all of the entities, the school board, superintendent, and departments. And so I think we've all spent a lot of time doing that. I also think this is one of those times in kind of the landscape of public education where there's a number of factors that are unique to this moment in time that would have been difficult to anticipate. What I know is that the team that's in place now doing this work moving forward has a different layer of kind of safeguards and expertise at the table that has some real deep expertise in financial projecting that's different than what we had in place in the past. And so I feel confident moving forward. It really goes to what Sarah talked about too, about us kind of shifting our mindset and our kind of the culture of the district. We've been growing hundreds of kids every year for a really long time, shifting to be a district that has a decreasing enrollment in times where prices or costs are increasing. Like, that's going to be a big culture mind shift for us. So I think, that coupled with, like I said, there's a different level of expertise around financial projecting at the table moving forward that I think will be helpful and would put the board in a position to not have to worry about the details of that.
And this is not just here. I mean, I have family in Arizona that are educators, and I have friends in Utah that are educators, and her daughter just got laid off of her school. This is across the nation that these educational dollars, the birth rate is down 25%. And it's really hard when you have these schools that still have to be run at a much smaller level. And then with the MSOCs, and MSOCs are materials. They're all of the things that are, because not everyone knows what those are, but they're all of the things that inflation has just made skyrocket. And so we've had all these inflation problems. We have this reduced enrollment across the whole entire country. And then we have issues at the state levels because they're running into some of the same problems that we are. So this is not unique to our district. In fact, just go look at the papers. We actually have it pretty good. It's hard to hear this. It's hard to see this. We've always been really good stewards of this money. We've actually taken a lot of hits from various entities because we demand that 5% balance. Well, this is why we demand that 5% balance.
Amy, I appreciate you bringing that up. And one of the things that happened at the closure of this year's legislative session is there's, I think, $51 million designated by the legislature that will be infused into school district budgets across the state by pupil. It's about $50 per student in recognition of the financial crisis that school districts are in. So every district in Washington State will get an infusion of one-time money, $50 per pupil this year, in acknowledgement of kind of some of the unanticipated and the tensions that districts are feeling. I don't recall a time in the educational history since I've been here that that's happened. So it is a unique kind of financial time for us that is happening certainly all over Washington State, but like you said, across the nation. So thank you for that.
I agree, Director Phillips. I have colleagues who are experiencing layoffs and here in the state of Washington, and who are now dealing with like one principal buildings because there's just simply not the funds, whether it's because of the budget or lack of funding or the failing of a levy. And so I definitely don't think that we are unique. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can as a board.
I do just want to real quick, sorry, Amanda, highlight, and I appreciate what Director Phillips just said. If not for that 5%, the conversation we'd be having with you tonight would be vastly different. So I just want to thank the board for its fortitude and staying the course around that 5%. Even like Amy said, there's been times where there's been criticism around that, but this is exactly why we have it. It would be the difference between us being able to do this work through attrition over multiple years or not. And so, I feel honored to work for a district who has the foresight to have those dollars available to us to be able to navigate these uncertain times.
So moving forward, we've adjusted our budget so that we have so we're looking at next year, our projected costs will be more in line with what reality is.
Yes, and if you're ready, we can move on to that. I just want to make sure you have all your questions answered and any information you need to be prepared for the direction we're going to be asking you on May 27th. And if we feel good about that, then we can move on to 25, 26. That's a great segue into the next part of the presentation. And I will turn it back over to my friend Jim.
Okay, so this is like break, and then we go to the next year. So just to kind of recap, we're going to be asking to be able to end with a 2.5% fund balance rather than 5 in 24-25. The next bigger question should be, okay, what are you going to do about it in 25, 26? And this is really where we get to that. So there's some early projections for things that we'll be working through on the budget for 25, 26, and that work is really just now starting as the state has finished off all of their legislative work, and we're starting to get our revenue projection tools. So the first thing is we will build a budget that projects a decrease in enrollment. That's not just a guess, but we have some processes we go through to look at birth rates, transitions from different levels of schools, as cohorts survive from kindergarten through their senior year. So we will be proposing a budget that accounts for a decrease. Many cost areas that were budgeted for in 24-25, as you recognize, were really under budgeted. We're going to have to increase some of those in 25-26, utilities being an example. Special education funding is actually projected to increase due to enrollment and legislative impacts. So that's a good piece to our advantage. As you know, the state does not fully fund staffing costs. We will need our levy dollars to make that gap up. The voter levy already approved our levy that we're currently in. We're heading into the last year here soon. It will increase from $29.68 million in 2025 to $34.13 million in 2026. So we will benefit from an additional $4.4 million in 25-26 there. And also levy equalization funding, still looking at the legislative session and the impacts there, but so far it's looking like there's going to be an increase to Pasco around LEA. We're projecting $4 million of savings from staff attrition and how we're going to right size with our enrollment. So that will be to the positive on our budgeting. We will review non-staffing budgets to continue to capture budget savings there. And that's something we should be doing every year anyway, right? Be efficient and smart with our dollars. Evaluate and shift local program funded costs, staffing costs where allowable to non-local funded programs. That means federal dollars, CTE money, state categorical, food service, things of that nature. There are actually very legitimate and allowable, and in a lot of cases encouraged ways to pay for portions of, say, a principal out of some of these other categories. So we will get more advanced in how we do that here. We are projecting to continue to expect a $4 to $5 million deficit in 25-26 after all of that. But the picture will become much clearer as we get closer to the budget adoption in July. So. The other thing that I want to make sure that you kind of have in the back of your mind as we do this next budget cycle, Washington State has communicated that there is an uncertainty around what our federal funding will look like. We do have a sizable amount of our budget that comes out of federal funding, and in different pockets, we can expect to see some decreases there over the next year. Federal dollars pay for staff that support students, staff including teachers, paraeducators, and other support staff. It's estimated that we currently have 164 staff that are paid out of federal funds. So that's a very impactful piece for us to consider. Federal dollars support student programs such as academic intervention, social emotional supports, migrant education, students with disabilities, STEM and technology initiatives, all of that kind of stuff. Basically, everything above and beyond basic education gets funded out of what I like to call other people's money, OPM. So that would be, the grants and whatnot that we have. So there's some uncertainty there, and we're watching that very closely. So recommendations for 25-26, we've kind of given you a little bit of a sneak peek here, but here's what we're recommending. Staffing reductions through voluntary attrition over the next 2 to 3 school years to address the ongoing budget deficit. This approach avoids the disruption of layoffs and maintains stability for students and staff. To preserve classroom investment while right-sizing the organization's expenditures to revenues, the board-mandated fund balance will need to be reduced in 24-25 and continuing into the 25-26 school year. This fund balance reduction is temporary. It's meant to be a bridge strategy intended to provide time for staffing realignment, advocacy of the state and federal level to become more predictable and sustainable in how they fund us, and evaluation of future levy options will also be a topic for discussion. This recommendation by no means is taken lightly. It reflects the urgency of the current budget reality. We have to get on this. We are in a spot where we can make this work. It's really, the timing is just right. Unfortunately, there are districts that don't have that flexibility, and you kind of see how that happens. So we are lucky there, but we need to move swiftly and with intention. Commitment to minimizing disruption in student learning. If you've ever gotten an email from me, you see I always sign off for kids, and that's really the spirit of all of this. We need to make sure that we maintain the program around our kids. That's why we're here. Recognition of the district's position on the economic driver is an economic driver within the community. We don't take that lightly either. I know it is secondary to our mission of serving kids, but our kids are our community, and the things that happen with our families in our community does come into the classroom, and it's the right thing to do. A commitment to certificating classified staffs who carry out the district's mission. I've not been in a district that clearly shows me every hour of the day that there is a lot of care for our staff and making sure that they're able to carry out their jobs in the best way possible. And this is going to support that sentiment. And then lastly, the responsibility for taxpayers' continued investment in this district programs. We have a very supportive community, and we want to continue to maintain that. And we feel like this recommendation is kind of our action showing that we are serious about taking care of our funding situation. So, pass it over to you.
So this slide's really just designed to be a summary. The bottom line for us is we're centering, maintaining as much stability as possible for our school employees and families as we navigate this landscape. Natural staffing reductions for us are prioritized over layoffs because people are at the heart of our work. This approach requires that the reduction of the board mandated fund balance requirement of 5% to something other than 5%, initially 2%. And then the subsequent years, we would get back together and make a decision about what that decrease in percentage is. This does not represent a shift in our value, it's a reflection of them. It's a short-term necessity, not a long-term pattern, and we need to lean into Pasco's collective grit and grace to move through this moment responsibly and with empathy for those impacted. And just really want to acknowledge and thank Assistant Superintendent Sarah Thornton's comments about being proud of the work that's being done in this organization. I truly believe Pasco School District is at its best when things are at its worst. And while this isn't the worst we've ever seen, we have seen hard times together, and this certainly isn't an easy time by any means. It's not the worst we've ever seen, but you see people really leaning in and exemplifying the core values of this organization. And in times where people are questioning them too. They're questioning, is this decision in alignment with those, which I think is healthy. And as district admin, we need to be able to be self-reflective about our recommendations and make sure that they're in alignment with who we are. So I appreciate Sarah's comments, and she brought the feelings and made the superintendent cry in the audience. So I think that's a good night. So as we think about considerations for future board meetings, we will be asking for direction from you about really both parts of the strategy. One, we would continue to recommend reducing the 5% fund balance, which would then still allow us to continue to execute staffing reductions through attrition. Those two decisions are coupled. So the point in which you tell us we can no longer reduce the 5%, we have no other choice but to engage in reductions of force or layoffs. In order to continue to reduce staff through attrition, that is connected to reducing that 5% fund balance requirement to something other than 5%. So we will, that will continue to be our recommendation, but we'll be asking for that direction not on the 27th, not on the 10th, so at the meeting at the end of June. Should there be a significant reduction in state or federal funding, the district staff's recommendation would change. So if there was a point in which there was a full-scale elimination of federal funding and we had 164 employees that are charged to those grants, this strategy will not work. And we would have to come back to you with a different strategy. So just some clarity and transparency around that. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'm also happy to turn it over to my smart friends, Dr. Castilleja and Assistant Superintendent Thornton.
Superintendent Wendy, real quick. So you had just mentioned that the strategy is dependent upon the reduction of the 5% fund balance. That's if we decided not to do that and we decided to do the designated assignments, that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So that, okay, either of those.
Either of those.
Okay.
So you would have to reduce the fund. If you don't want to reduce the fund balance, our only option is RIF or layoff. Sorry. Thank you for clarifying.
And then I kind of sort of have a question, but it's kind of not that I'm looking for an answer right now, but kind of a way to inform parents, staff, students, because I know budget's a pretty hot topic when it comes to people, but just kind of a plan to make sure everyone's educated and know kind of why stuff's happening rather than someone could see their program getting a cut or something. And then without them kind of knowing the why behind it, could, I don't know, lead to some, not unneeded, but excess frustration with it.
100%, Owen, and I appreciate you saying that. And, typically we end our presentations with a next step slide, and we did not do that this time, and I'm not sure why. But the next step for us after tonight is engaging in a strategic community. Matter of fact, I have Anna Tensmeyer working on that already, which layers in all of those stakeholders, like what messages are going out to employees, students, families, and even bringing back, for example, our ambassadors that were here tonight. We have graduating classes of ambassadors that we could bring back in, do a deep kind of financial dive around this so that they're being good stewards of our message. I have Soup for the Soup on Friday. This will definitely be a topic. And those are just a couple of examples of strategic communication opportunities that we'll be engaging in, but Anna's working on a comprehensive plan. And thank you for surfacing that. That's absolutely our next layer. We always bring information to the board first, and then after that, we launch that cascading messaging plan, and we'll do the same thing with this information as we have in the past. So thank you.
Well, Superintendent Whitney and Assistant Superintendent Ms. Thornton and to Dr. Castilla, thank you so much for your transparency, for the thorough review of the budget, what we are facing, and the options that we have as a board, and and going into depth and to detail about what each of those looks like, so that we can make an informed decision as a board for the direction of the district and this, like as your report title says, this new fiscal reality. This is not a fun topic. It is not at all a happy topic of discussion, but it is necessary, and as has been stated, it is one that is occurring around the state and nation. So I appreciate the district's thorough review of why this is happening, the direction we are heading, and the choices that we as a board now are faced with, and that we can go forward with the information. So thank you very much. With that, we have heard 3 reports this evening: the Student Action Council report, the overview of Pasco Digital Learning Academy, and our budget presentation. Is there anyone here present in the boardroom who would like to give public comment about anything in those 3 reports? I invite you to come to the podium. Again, a reminder that the board does not respond to public comments, but we do value hearing from you. You have 2 minutes, the same as our public comment at the beginning of our meeting.
So, Maria Lee, President of PAE, I just wanted to remind the board of the process that PAE and PSD is going through right now with our staffing. What hasn't been acknowledged tonight is that we have gone to every single building presently and talk to each teacher individually, explaining to them why they are being reassigned and what we are trying to prevent. So whatever direction PSD is providing for you to support what it is that they need, I'd really like to encourage you to do that. You don't see the teachers' faces. You don't see the tears. You don't see our newest teachers who've already gone home for the night, thank you so much, who are so in love with teaching that they'll do whatever needs to be done. I just want you to remember that behind all of those conversations are individuals, and I want to make sure that they're protected too. Thank you.
Is there anyone else present in the boardroom who would like to give public comments? And I am seeing Mr. Garrett indicate that we have no one online. Thank you. That takes us to our next agenda item, future agenda items. Superintendent Whitney.
So as I mentioned, probably ad nauseum during the last presentation, we'll certainly be talking to you about the budget again. The study session is our 3 comprehensive high school principles, focused again on updating the board on their focus on high school unification. This particular study session, they're going to bring students to help present about how they're centering student voice in planning for that unification, but also in operationalizing those plans. So I'm really excited about that. And then we'll have the 2025-26 budget presentation, and also working in getting direction for the 24-25 budget closeout, as well as starting the conversation around levy planning. And we're going to really kind of wander into that around what's the term of the levy. And then so you can run a levy from anywhere between 1 and 4 years. The last couple levies have been each 4 years. So we need to start thinking and talking about that. So that will be the presentations on that night. If we feel like we can get through those 2 meaty topics, we may do the third in a series of school safety presentations. Maybe. I feel like those budget and levy are going to be pretty meaty, but so we want to be thoughtful to give enough time to really engage around that. So if we don't feel like we can do the school safety presentation that night, we will move it to a subsequent meeting.
Thank you. Are there any future agenda items that would like to be proposed by board members? I have 2. So the first one is a year ago, I had asked to have a report or possible policy adoption of, there's a WASDA model policy for a, and I forget the exact terms right now, but it was brought up to me by New Horizons. If there is a student who is meeting the criteria and is able and has all the knowledge needed in order to pass a class, then they can use a proficiency-based model in order to not have to take that class because they already have all the knowledge. And that would be great for our students who might need to, are doing like a 5th year of high school or need to do some credit recovery. So I'd love to talk about that soon, and we already had a board approval for that. So I will resend the email. And then the other one that hasn't been discussed yet is like I really appreciated the students bringing up their financial literacy instructional, not materials, but just like what's discussed in financial literacy. I'd love to hear more in detail about what is taught in financial literacy. Are there any board members who would be interested in hearing that in a report?
Could we add to that? I know that the state did pass additional requirements around that, so it'd be nice to know the differences between the current curriculum and what the state is going to be, what they are mandating by law.
Anyone else?
Can I just comment that, I forgot. Oh, would it be possible to have like one of the Chiwana, one of the Pasco High financial literacy teachers come and present what's currently curriculum as a part of that, because you were interested in what we're currently taught in financial literacy. So you could have 2 teachers come in, explain what they teach in their own classrooms, and then be taught like the Washington State standards on top of that. Just to give you a little background knowledge of what we already do have as a working base.
Okay, so what I have so far is a proposal of financial literacy classes with state requirements versus what we are teaching and how the two align, or what we do above and beyond the state requirements, and then a report from one of the high school financial literacy teachers.
I'd request that district staff be allowed to prepare that presentation as they. I hesitate to ask our teachers to come present to the board. They work very hard. I feel like that's district staff's responsibility, so I would ask permission to not require that of our teachers.
That would be, thank you.
I appreciate the suggestion, Danica. I don't want to take away from the suggestion. I also just want to be protective of our teachers' time. I think that's why you have me.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so financial literacy with state requirements versus what we are teaching, and I believe we're probably teaching more than was what was required by the state. So I believe Director Simmons is on board. Do we have a third board member?
Yeah.
Dr. Kennedy? Okay. Any further future agenda items?
Just to add something to that last one, I mean, we've taken the financial literacy class, so if it would be helpful, we'd be willing to kind of, I don't know, meet with a teacher or something and kind of get a refresher on what they're teaching in that, and then present it then.
Yeah, instead of having a district staff to do it, we could just collab with our teachers from our high school.
Nice.
Gather the curriculum that they teach, what they teach, and just
One of the activities that will be on the agenda for the May Student Advisory Council is getting feedback from the advisory council about the financial literacy presentation versus the class. So the May presentation might be a great time to do that. And then once they do that, if you want more information, I've scheduled it for the first meeting in July, financial literacy. So you'll see something in May in their presentation, and then it's on the future agenda items for July.
Okay, great, thank you.
I know we've also talked about some other things that probably are on the docket. I don't know when it would be a good time, maybe our next, what do you call it? No, when we get together, retreat, thank you. Our next retreat would be a really good time to go, and those things that we have asked for future agenda items, if you can kind of give us an idea of when those will land on them. I think there was one that I'm still anxious to hear about with preschools. So with how we're preparing our kids for kindergarten. So, so it would be, I know there have been several others. I'd love to see what's on that list.
Okay. With that being said, our next agenda item is communications. Dr. Norberg, will you please start us off?
Yes, I just want to thank all the teachers, staff, and administration on their work for this past year. It's this year and probably next year is going to be more challenging, and I just encourage you to just hang in there, and I want to commend everybody for the work that they've done. I've just seen the great things. I mean, the new buildings that are 2 new high schools that are coming up on time and under budget, or at least even with budget. And I just think we're doing a lot of great things. Even the way that we're addressing the budget, I think that we're doing a great job. I want to commend those that have been working on the budget for next year and how we're doing this. I mean, there are just a lot of positive things that we have to address, and I just want to say that we're doing it in a positive manner, and we're doing it, I think, to the best of their ability, and I just want to commend everybody.
Yes, another thank you to our teachers and this Teacher Appreciation Week. It's a celebrated week here in Pasco, and we appreciate and we love that. Loved the state of the school reviews. They just ended tonight. We got to hear from our four middle schools, and it was fabulous. It is so fun to see the growth that has been made in our reading scores across the district. That was exciting. We still have room for work, but pretty much across the board, we have seen considerable gains in our reading scores and also in our attendance. So those were two things that we can celebrate this year. That was really fun to hear of state of the school from our state of the school reviews. Just a reminder, our Team Pasco is on we might have another board member meeting before then, and I'll probably remind you there too. But it's on Wednesday the 28th. We'll have a board meeting on the 17th. So it's at 8413 Ashen Drive. If you know anybody who needs to buy a house, I'm on the board for Team Pasco, and we have priced the house very competitively, hopefully to turn that house quickly enough that we can buy land and get started on the next house that we will now have a partnership with 3 different high schools to build. So that is exciting. It's a great program. It's at 11 a.m. at this 8413, not far from Reynolds and Columbia River schools. This house is located. So please come and celebrate the work of this incredible group of students.
Once again, my deep appreciation to our educators here in Pasco School District. I'm glad that we are using this moment to acknowledge the absolutely vital role our teachers play in our school district. And I, for one, am glad that the district is honoring them, and hopefully will continue to honor their sacrifice and dedication for our students. I, along with Board President Brown, had the opportunity to attend the Hispanic Academic Achievers Program 2 weeks ago. It's just amazing to see the awardees and the students who just have excelled academically through some challenges in some cases, and have bright futures ahead of them. And it was just really inspiring. This is my 3rd year going to the HAP Awards, and it's really inspiring to see all the students from all the school districts who have done so well academically and are going off to do great things. And I also was happy to attend with Board President Brown the Cinco de Mayo ceremony for the Pasco School District, and we received some money from Fiesta Foods. And each year, Fiesta Foods invests in our students financially, and they are a fantastic community partner. And so I want to personally tonight thank Fiesta Foods for their continued support for our students.
I want to reiterate my point from previously during the presentation about the Teacher Appreciation Week. I do fully believe that Pasco teachers are the best teachers in the world. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I mean, I love the school district, but I want to thank every single Pasco teacher for giving it your all and trying your hardest every single day to give kids the brightest futures they humanly can. And I want to say that again, really biased, but Pasco has the best teachers in the country.
I echo that. I'm very proud to come from Pasco School District. I also remember every single teacher I've ever had in Pasco School District. I remember their name and their face and what they taught me, and what grade level I was in. I also want to echo what Dr. Kennedy said about the HAP Awards. I also got to attend, as well with the Cinco de Mayo Festival. I got to volunteer, and it was really amazing to see the amount of Pasco students that participate in the actual festival itself, or our performers, and the amount of the community that comes out to show support to other members of our community. I also want to say that to the art teachers that expressed frustration earlier and upset, I understand, as I am a student that's been in ceramics before. I've had Mrs. Luttrell before, and I understand, because I'm also a senior, how this is impacting some of my closest friends who don't get to see their final project, so I understand the frustration, and I'm right there with you. But I trust that our district will do their best to get this resolved, as they do value our students, and this is directly impacting us, so I know that they're going to do their best to make sure that they can do everything they possibly can to fix it.
With Teacher Appreciation Week being last week, I just wanted to give an appreciation to all Pasco teachers. I know personally I've had so many teachers, not just one or two or a handful, but a lot of teachers changed my life really positively. And that's something where I don't know if every kid can say in every district. So I am really proud to be able to say that. And then also kind of with the ambassadors coming into the student representative role, didn't really know anything at all about how the district worked or any of the people, didn't even know some of these people existed. And then to kind of learn a bunch of things that a bunch of different people do in the district, it's really humbling and makes me really, I have a lot of gratitude towards those people that work hard every day to make sure this district works well.
So I was able to attend a couple weeks ago the Washington State School Directors Association, or WASDA, their regional meetings, and that was a lot of fun. It was up in Prosser, and so it was kind of a drive, especially for people that were coming from Walla Walla, and but it was really good just to get in that group, and the big focus was how we can, as a board, support and enhance our focus around student outcomes and student achievement. And then just through a series of exercises where we kind of mix the groups up, because sometimes boards like to sit by each other and that's where they feel comfortable, so we mixed it up. It was good to just see and get to know a bunch of board members from around the region and see how their board acts and how they interact with each other, and then also learn from them. So it was really good. I gained a lot of good insights and good knowledge on how, as a board, overcome a lot of biases and opinions and things, and that kind of how to channel those in a way that we can promote student outcomes and still be able to be valued as an individual board member. So I really appreciated that. The other thing that I've been able to do, I've been doing this recently for probably the last 3 or 4 months, just visiting each of our schools that we have in the district, and that has been very, very insightful and a very big and enjoyable part of my week. We just had the State of the School reviews tonight. It was with the middle schools. The last 3 or 4 times I've got to attend each one of those middle schools except McLaughlin. I had to reschedule, it kind of goes along with Teacher Appreciation Week. I have gained I've always known the effort and the heavy load that teachers have, but to see it in action is a whole different thing, and I really appreciate the hard work that they put forward every day. Being able to go into individual classrooms and see in real time what teachers are doing, and watching these students, these kids and these students just really gravitate towards the instruction that they're receiving, and how smart, how different I think that the students that we have in our school district now are different than they were when I was in school. They're so much more intuitive and so much more aware of the things going on around them. And of course, it's just entertaining too, because we'd go in with whoever was giving us the tour. Most of the time, it was the school principal, and they would always walk in, and they always knew the principal's name by first name, and I was absolutely impressed with that. So when these principals talk about how they're really trying to put emphasis on making sure that kids are aware that they're cared about, that they have an adult or a teacher or a administrator in the school that's caring about them, they really do. Because each one of these classes I walked into, multiple classrooms, each of those kids knew who their administrators were. But they would always turn to them and say, who is this? And I'm nobody. I don't, but, well, I mean, true, but it was always entertaining to see that. And so, of course, then the principal would explain that this is your one of your board representatives, and they'd go, what's a board? But it was fun. So that's what I've been doing, and I really appreciate the schools that have taken the time, and of course, the scheduling of that. I've really appreciated it, and each one of the schools that have been able to accommodate that and take their time and their day has been wonderful.
I'm glad you went to the WASDA event. That's one of our board goals, to attend more WASDA events. So like everyone has commented, our middle schools did such a good job on their State of the School reviews tonight. Like President Phillips, or I'm sorry, I'm president now. Like like Director Phillips said that after our study session, there was just such a positive energy in the room. Like it was literally electric, and it felt so great to hear all of the proactive approaches that our middle schools are taking. And speaking of State of Schools, I attended the New Horizons State of the School. Such a great school and so many things going on there, so many lives changed by that opportunity to be able to go there. Like Dr. Kennedy said, I attended the HAP Awards. Congratulations, Danica, one of our HAP scholarship recipients. And I had to leave the HAP Awards early because I went and saw World of Worlds at Pasco High. And then my child was performing in that. And then I was at the Cinco de Mayo celebration, and I have to, I hesitate to call out staff names, but I had a speech prepared for me to give at the Cinco de Mayo event by our employee, Gracie Bayechimal, and it was an amazing speech. She wrote it bilingual, and I got to address the whole crowd as the school board president, accept a check from Fiesta. Two of our Pasco School District students got $10,000 scholarships from Fiesta, so Dr. Kennedy is very right to say thank you to Fiesta Foods for their support of our arts programs, because we received a check for that as well as supporting our students. It was really amazing and so fun to be up there. I also attended the Future Teacher Signing event that was at Stevens last week. That was my first time to be able to attend that event, and really fun. It's like their, it's like the draft. So the teachers go in and they sign a letter saying that when you get your degree, we guarantee you an interview. And Superintendent Wayne says, we don't guarantee you a job, you have to get that, but we do guarantee, I will make sure that you have an interview. And so I think a lot of times when we think about CTE, we think about the trades like electricians or welding or firefighters, but Pasco offers a CTE class for teachers, and I think that's so amazing. And speaking of teachers, happy Teacher Appreciation Week last week, and just thinking about the things that a teacher goes through in just like a 5-minute period of like after preparing a lesson where you have prepared to meet the needs of your students who are 3 grade levels above, and then those that are 3 grade levels beneath, and you're ready to teach it, and then a student has bleeding and needs a Band-Aid, and then another one feels like they're going to throw up, and the projector stops working, and then it's just like juggling 100 balls all at once, but it's so rewarding when you see the light bulb go on, and when you see that your student's growth throughout the year, or when a student comes to you and says, my life changed because of you. And there's nothing quite like that. So thank you for all that you do. We appreciate you. And last but not least, this last week was, in addition to Teacher Appreciation Week, was also Filing Week. So congratulations to all of you who threw your hat in the ring to run for a position on the board.
I also wanted to acknowledge the HAP event. Just wanted to throw out a couple of really impressive statistics around that event. Pasco School District students won 18 of the 36 scholarships. There were 3 top scholarships of $10,000, $10,000, and like $12,500. Pasco School District students won 2 of the 3 top scholarships. So I'm always incredibly proud to be the superintendent of Pasco School District. Then that night is just kind of like a cherry on the top of the sundae. We go up, and when they announce the scholarships, and it's like, we go up there, we get our picture taken, and they're like, oh, Pasco, just stay up there, because the next, kids are you. So it's just a great night to celebrate phenomenal students doing phenomenal work and acknowledge those staff who help put our kids in positions where they're applying for those scholarships. So to just stay on the theme of amazing kids, our student board rep applications for the 25-26 school year will close on Friday the 16th. So if you know a student or you are a student who are interested, please make sure you apply. The application's on the website. I'm hosting the last Soup with the Soup event for the school year on the 16th also, from 11:30 to 1 o'clock in this room. We'll be talking about the new high schools, long-term facilities management planning, and I'm sure the budget. We also had 4 schools recognized by OSPI for the 2025 Washington School Recognition Program for their outstanding. You know what? If I put these on, I could probably see better. Outstanding efforts in student achievement growth and closing the opportunity gap for the 23-24 school year. So congratulations to, drumroll for Edwin Markham Elementary for growth for low-income students, McLaughlin Middle School for growth for students in one or more racial and ethnic groups, Rosalind Franklin Stelm Elementary for closing gaps, and Three Rivers Elementary for closing gaps. So each of those schools will receive a banner from the State Board of Education, and the district is sharing the news through multiple media channels, so I'm sure that you have seen it. I also just wanted to highlight for the board, I have been asked as one of 2 superintendents in Washington State to attend the first ever School Leaders Collaborative Symposium. I was invited by the Association of Washington School Principals to go. They're really trying to encourage collaboration between superintendents and principals. There's research that underpins the extent to which there's a healthy relationship between a superintendent and principals in a district. It leverages student academic achievement. So there's 2 superintendents in the state who've been invited to go to this symposium. I will be traveling, and I just want to be really clear and transparent that we have had a ban on traveling. The only reason I'm going is because no district funds are supporting me going. They are paying everything for me to go. So if you hear I'm traveling, I'm not violating our own policy. The Association of Washington School Principals and this consortium will be paying all of my travel. I feel really blessed and honored to have been invited and I was invited because we have such a healthy relationship between the district and our principals. So we've been identified as a district to go to the symposium. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I also wanted to just highlight district staff's been in communication with the city regarding the issues around the kiln. And what we're working on right now is trying to get clarity around where the violations are occurring. Those kilns are inspected annually. We have never had an issue in them passing inspection. So we're perplexed why all of a sudden our kilns are an issue. I did appreciate tonight the encouragement for us to find alternative ways to support the art projects that are in progress, and have connected Casey Flynn to that group of teachers, and Casey and I can maybe get together and figure out. And I'll battle at the city level. Casey's going to try to find us some kiln space to finish off some projects. So just wanted to acknowledge that. I also, just as a way to continue the theme of acknowledging teacher appreciation, when I did my student teaching, my mentor teacher told me, if not for teachers, there would be no other professions. We were all taught by a teacher to do what we do. And I don't think I fully understood that as a student teacher, but when you sit in a room like this, like tonight, when Megan Wilkinson gets up, who was on our Student Action Council, my very first year as superintendent, is now back teaching at the school where I was principal, like, you really recognize that full circle moment of just getting to be a witness to people's lives and seeing the trajectory of their accomplishments over time, and then to see them come back and contribute to our community is just a pretty amazing way to really celebrate the influence of our teachers. I also want to acknowledge Alex Gable, who was part of our ambassadors program, was actually in middle school when I was his middle school principal. And so now he's back as an ambassador and a substitute teacher here. So I think they're just great stories to kind of underscore why the work of teachers is so important, and just how lucky we all are to get to be part of the lives of the students that we serve. So thank you.
With that, we have no executive session tonight, and this meeting is adjourned.